Family. Okay, so I was on TikTok and I got pulled into to this discussion. Now I've been disconnected from social media because I've been enjoying the National Women's Theater Festival. Woohoo! Oh, was it wrong? Woohoo! I have a project that's being featured. Dignity, check it out. You can see it live in person if you're in Raleigh. Otherwise, you can stream it live. And I'll put the ticket link in the comment section. But this video is about my sister Carlisha and her 14-year-old baby boy. Sister who was attacked by some dude while she was waiting in line for food, and then baby boy shot the dude in the parking lot. And apparently, there are some folks who are mad that the dude, I guess, didn't get away with this attack on baby boy's mama. Or maybe their issue is that they expected him to get shot in the restaurant, or, and had he been shot in the restaurant instead of the parking lot or something, maybe people would have felt like that was playing fair. I don't know what people be doing. I don't get it. But I haven't been able to follow the rationale behind, like, what's wrong with the people who, got a problem. They feel like that you can fuck around but not find out. Like, that part, I'm just lost. But anyway, I watched a young brother on TikTok go in on, like, whoever it was that was maligning this young man's mother, maligning Carlisha and her son. And somehow we got some folks in the family that feel like, the shooting was the incorrect course of action to this man physically attacking Sister Carlisha. Two things I want to share. First, something that happened to me when I was a teenager. I used to love watching Oprah come home from school, get a bite to eat, before I do homework, I'd watch Oprah. And I always loved it when she would have a topic featuring young people, right? She'd always have an expert on there. And, you'd have this really engaging program, and then you would get to the end with the expert, and the expert always said the same thing. Kids, please talk to your parents. Please talk to your parents. And I'm like, man, Emma mean she don't talk to kids like that. I be mad as fuck. I was like, I can't talk to my mama. Like, she don't talk to people like that. But anyway, I decided to try that advice one day, and we were walking through this parking lot, Home Depot, as a matter of fact. And I decided to try it. And so I just asked her this random question. I said, Mama, what do you think about abortion? Without even looking back or breaking strides, just said, don't have sex, you ain't got to worry about it. And then she told my brother, hey, give me that cart, and I'm going in there and get this stuff. I understood right then at that moment. Now, I was mad first that, she didn't engage me. But I realized that it's some shit you just don't have to, you won't have to worry about if there's some shit that you just don't do. Okay, so that's the first story. Second story is something I heard during the pandemic. I was watching a lot of virtual programming, like most of us were. And there was a lot of really good content about, like, how to deal with how to protect your psyche, because we were all, like, losing our shit, in the middle of that pandemic. So it's like I watched a lot of stuff elevating your consciousness, dwelling in peace in the midst of chaos, and all of that. And there was this one brother. He's an expert, an elder in our community. He told a story about what protection looks like. Now, first, let me say this. This is like a trigger warning. If you have a problem with sexual violence and somebody fucking around and finding out, okay, go ahead and turn the video off. Okay, here we go. This is what he said. He said he lived in a community where a little 5-year-old girl was raped by this man. And the next day, they found that man tied in a sack filled with rattlesnakes floating down the Mississippi River. He said the little girl grew up to be happy and well-adjusted because she knew that she was in a community that loved her. Now, I had to stop telling that story because I actually had some folks, people that I knew who had experienced sexual trauma, that somehow empathized with the rapist. They felt like, it bothered them that God didn't come down from the sky and get this dude dealt with. They felt like there was a different way that he should have, quote, found out. Always confused me. But here's the biblical witness that does not confuse me. It's in the second book of Samuel, 2 Samuel chapter 13. King David's daughter, Tamar, was raped by her brother. He deceived her into assisting him, playing like he was sick. And then she shows up with kindness, and he rapes her. And then after he rapes her, he's so disgusted by her that he throws her out of the house. Scripture says that she lived as a desolate woman for the rest of her life. Her brother Absalom took her in, told her, don't worry about it, sis, I got you. But directed her to not say anything to anyone. Scripture says that David was mad. But 2 years later, Absalom holds a feast. He invites all of his brothers, and he also invited his dad. His dad was like, no, that's going to be too much trouble for me to come, so just, just you go ahead and enjoy the celebration. Absalom had given a directive for two of his men to wait for his signal, and then for them to handle his half-brother who had raped his sister Tamar. They got the signal, and then, got their hands dirty. Everyone bolted out, afraid that they were all about to get got. They didn't know what Absalom was up to. Word got back to David that all his sons had been killed by Absalom, and he was distressed. But then the story was corrected, and it was just the one son who raped his daughter that got. Absalom had avenged his sister's rape. Then Absalom ran away. Now, eventually, David and Absalom, they reconciled, and they were able to pull everything back together. But then they got out of sorts again. So that's a whole other part of the story. But it has always fascinated me that we have a robust conversation about what it means to get your hands dirty if someone has violated a woman in your family, mother, daughter, sister, niece. We should have way more fucking dirty knuckles. And I feel like if we had more knuckles that were scarred for handling business, there would be less shootings. And I would say even far less rapes and molestations, or at least that's my hope. Maybe that's not the case. But here's the other part of the story that came out about the brother who lived in the community with a baby girl who was raped, and her rape was, again, immediately avenged. He said that one of the biggest impediments to, quote, dirty knuckles, and dirty knuckles that's my metaphor. He said the biggest impediment is that everything has to be posted on social media nowadays. And then this guy who was on the panel, he chuckled. And then the elder said, that's all I'm going to say about it. My takeaway from that moment was that there are some brothers out there with dirty knuckles. There are people out there who are not going to go quietly in the night when these kinds of things happen. But they're not doing it on social media. It is a false construct that somehow black women are not being loved and taken care of. There are a lot of men with tattoos on their knuckles and extreme love in their heart for black women. But they just don't feel the need to put that shit on social media. All of that to say, I wouldn't go too hard against the brothers who are out there posturing about their hatred for black women. Hey, they got clean knuckles, so leave them be. But thank you to everyone who stands up on social platforms and you call them out. But for those of you who are keeping us safe and keeping everything quiet, thank you. Feast of Absalom.